Hello everyone, Wayne Motts, the President Emeritus and Historian at the Gettysburg Foundation, with a very special guest for this segment of Museum Monday, and that's my friend David Malgee, the former Interim President and CEO of the Gettysburg Foundation, and also a former board member of the Gettysburg Foundation, all around great guy. And this segment is really going to be special to David, I know. It's also great for me because we've got him to tell us about a personal connection he has to inside the Museum of the American Civil War at the Gettysburg National Military Park. Remember, these segments are connecting objects inside the Visitor Center Museum, the Museum of the American Civil War, which is run by the Gettysburg Foundation, out here on the battlefield, and we're right next to the 111th New York Volunteer Infantry Regiment, right on the fields of Pickett's Charge for July 3rd, 1863. And David, we've got plenty of time to talk, but we don't have that much time, and he knows so much about it. We're so happy you're with us.
Well, thank you, Wayne. It's obviously great to be here, and there's so many great stories, and it's nice that you would invite me here to help you tell this one, Wayne.
I think it's great, and I'm a museum person. I love to go look at objects, and we've got over 1,000 objects on permanent display inside the Museum of the American Civil War, and to me, every one of them has a story. And that's why we're here today, David, because one of the soldiers, Myron Van Winkle of the 111th New York, a man, I guess, that's from your hometown,
That's
you told
correct.
us.
That's correct.
There are objects inside the Museum of the American Civil War that belong to him, and he fought right here at Gettysburg on July 3rd, 1863. Why don't you tell us a little bit about him?
All right, Wayne. Well, Myron Van Winkle is a Dutchman. His parents brought him from Holland to Wayne County, New York before the war. He was raised in Williamson, New York, actually a little hamlet called Pulteneyville, which is in the northern district of Williamson. He was a farm laborer by profession. In 1857, Myron will marry a local girl named Rhoda Grandin, and together they will have two children, Philip, who was 4 years old when his father was killed here at Gettysburg, and Emma Elizabeth, who was not yet a year old when her dad died here at Gettysburg. He will enlist on August 7th of 1862 after Lincoln's call for 300,000 more men, and he will be mustered in on August 20th of 1862 in Company E. He's a private. He enlists for 3 years service. He will pass through the fighting at Harper's Ferry. The regiment will then be awaiting exchange at Camp Douglas in Chicago, and then for the period prior to the Battle of Gettysburg, he will be with the regiment in the defenses of Washington, mostly in the Centerville area, Union Springs, Union Mills area of Virginia. Here at Gettysburg, he will take a mini ball to the left leg at the height of Pickett's Charge. He will lose that leg the next day, July 4th of 1863, and then he will undergo his recovery at the Jacob Schwartz farm east of Rock Creek. And he will seem to be doing very, very well, but during that period, the chaplain of the 111th will visit the hospital. His name is John Brown, Chaplain John Brown, and this is what he has to say about Myron Van Winkle. This is a quote. He says, "None bore their wounds better than Van Winkle. And for days after the operation, he was not only cheerful, but did much for the encouragement of the wounded lying with him in the tent. But suddenly and unexpectedly, a change came. His system lapsed into a typhoid state from which he never recovered. And on the 29th of July, he breathed his last, leaving his afflicted parents, a wife, and two children to mourn his loss." And of course, today, although he was buried on the Jacob Schwartz farm, he was reinterred in the National Cemetery. He lies today in the New York section in grave A75. And if I could, Wayne, just very briefly tell you that Rhoda Van Winkle, his widow, would in October of '63 receive a government pension of $8 for the loss of her husband and $2 each for her children. She'll forfeit that pension in 1867 when she remarries, and she will die in 1910. But there is a little bit of an epilogue that ties my family that I married into to the Van Winkle story. And that is Rhoda Grandin Van Winkle had an older brother named Daniel Grandin, and Daniel will also enlist in Company E of the 111th New York. He will pass through all the experiences that Van Winkle himself had He will survive Gettysburg, but on May 15th of 1864, he will be, in fact, captured at Tar River, Virginia, and sent to Andersonville Prison. Okay, he will arrive there in good health, but within a month, he will pass away due to disease. And what's interesting is my wife's great-great-grandfather, Adrian Contant, who was in Company D of the 111th New York, was captured at Mine Run. He is at Andersonville, and he will stay with his good friend, Daniel Grandin, through his illness, and he will later testify that he was with Grandin when he passed away. So that's my little tie-in to this story. And I would also say that if you go to Lakeview Cemetery in Pulteneyville, New York today, you will find an obelisk with the names of Grandin and Van Winkle on it, among the 14 men from that hamlet that died in the Civil War.
And what makes it interesting for this story is not only this personal connection that David has, but the items that are in the museum. So if you go into the Museum of the American Civil War today, there is a photograph of Myron Van Winkle. There's a photograph of Rhoda, his wife, and there is also a newspaper obituary there. And David, there's some bullets that are there. And what's the story behind those? There's some bullets. Wasn't it when... Didn't the family come here for the Gettysburg Address? And weren't they here for the Gettysburg Address? And these are things picked up on the battlefield?
They were here, I think, to be here to see their fathers and their husband's grave, yes, and they did.
One thing that's interesting is that there were things found by the Van Winkle family when they came here to be at the grave. I guess they weren't here when he died, but maybe they were.
We don't know.
We don't know that. Maybe they were. Okay.
They had the good fortune, if you will, in a bad situation, to know that their father and their husband had survived the battle.
Yeah.
So there was time to come here.
Yeah.
As many people did, and they very well may have been here for his interment. I don't know.
And the chaplain would be a person that could inform him of that. You just mentioned it.
Right.
He was out there for the cemetery. But for this segment of Museum Monday, Myron Van Winkle of the 111th New York Volunteer Infantry Regiment, items inside the museum, including his photograph, his wife's image, a little obituary there, and some bullets from the battlefield at Gettysburg. And we're near the spot where he would have been mortally wounded on July 3rd, 1863. Well, David,
yes,
I can't thank you enough for being with us
thank you, Wayne.
For this special episode.
I want to just say I appreciate so much what you do for the Gettysburg Foundation,
thanks.
What your past service has been, and it's an honor for me to stand here and to help tell these stories. Thank you.
Well, we want to get other people as excited as we are, and we appreciate that because we're real excited about these things. And we hope you all come. We hope you'll share, you'll like the video, you'll react to it, you'll subscribe to the Gettysburg Foundation's YouTube channel, and please come out onto the battlefield and visit. Help us help the Gettysburg National Military Park preserve this great place. So thanks.
Thank you, Wayne.